Hello. Today I am interviewing Steffi. So, Steffi, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. It's a sunny Sunday here in
Mhm.
Germany, and yeah, it's pretty chill. A relaxing weekend for me. Yeah.
Mhm. That's good. What do you like to do on the weekend?
I didn't have so much choice to like. I couldn't really choose what to do the last couple of weeks because I had a lot to do for university. So I actually don't know how to use my time right now since I'm a little bit more free and have more leisure time. And yeah, I read a lot and I try to get out a little bit, enjoying the sun a little bit. But usually I just stay in my room, read a lot, cuddle with my
Mm.
cats. I don't know, something like that.
Okay. And hmm, how many? Do you have one cat or do you have multiple cats?
I have two cats, yeah. Both
No.
are female, and one I have for 8 years now, and the other for 2 years. Yeah.
Mhm. And why do you like cats?
They are pretty chill company. Like, I don't have to take care of so much things like a dog who I need to get out with all the time. I don't have to worry about a dog that he might just not feel comfortable around my house in my room so much that he like is. Dogs are pretty active, right?
Mm.
And
Yes.
usually, I guess. And cats are a little more passive, more chill. That vibes with my state of mind and pretty well. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Hmm. Okay. And once during the week, what do you tend to do?
In the week.
Mm.
Yeah, as I said, I do a lot of university stuff.
Mm.
I have lots of work to do, and other than that, I take care of my of household stuff. Of yeah, it's pretty boring the last couple of weeks since Corona hit us all, and yeah, I can't really get out of with my friends or
Mm.
something like that. I really didn't have much friends here in the city I'm studying, and so I actually don't have the choice to say, okay, yeah, now I want to go out with friends because they are far away either. So I'm pretty much by myself all the days and try to fill the time with household stuff, university work. Yeah.
I see. Thank you. Hmm. And what do you study at university?
I'm currently switching a little bit. I I'm in my second semester right now, and so I started to study last October, and I started with history. As yeah, I study double major, two majors basically. It's a double major bachelor. I don't know if you say it like that.
Yes.
And
Mm.
the first major is history, and the second would be philosophy.
Mm.
But I'm changing it to a unique major now. Um, I know that's just in my city, this study field. It's a combination of historical and empirical cultural studies. That's how
Mm.
Germany divides cultural studies in. And I kind of study both, plus the second major, and this would be history. So I actually want to continue with history, but it's just like not my major focus. Like the first major is a little bit more intense and a little bit more stuff to do, and the second major is so yeah. Um, it's
Mm.
yeah, it's still a major, but not as intense. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting as well. What made you decide not to continue with the philosophy?
It was a hard decision, I have to say. I would love to study cultural studies, history, philosophy, maybe even a little bit more languages, like going into the linguistic fields and such. I would love to, but uh, I can't do everything at once, at least. Maybe I will continue with philosophy a little bit later. And yeah, the reason why I actually chose to drop philosophy for now is it's just pretty much the priority I have right now. That, like, first of all, my interest is for cultural studies. That's what I've developed the second semester, since I got to know history a little bit more, and then I noticed, yeah, okay, my interests go more in this direction, and I want to discover this field. It's also pretty new. I can't really read about it online or in the library, like the online library we have. We have access to that, but there isn't even so much to read, so I can't really study it by myself or keep this interest. But it's possible for philosophy, and that's why I thought, okay, in philosophy, I don't need so much orientation from professors or whatever. For history, okay, I saw that I have to improve this and this, and maybe it's good that I keep that, especially that I got so much points the last 2 semesters. I didn't want to lose that as well. And yeah, so it's basically this priority list and looking how I get the most out of it from the last 2 semesters, from the points. And yeah, philosophy being a field where you can actually go into it without much orientation. At least I got the orientation the last 2 semesters, so I kind of have a plan in my mind how I could go further and further and develop more the I would say the mental skills. It's, I don't know if you like, for example, logical skills, or yeah, something like that.
Thank you. And what was it about cultural studies that really floated your boat?
The history, like I just can say it for Germany, how I noticed it. The history in Germany is pretty political and structural. The structural thing is interesting, and that's why I keep it as my major still. But the political, not so much. I mean, I kind of knew that politics is pretty important for, like, having this all-around picture of what's going on in our daily life and in the political life, whatever. But well, not so much political life. It's just I'm pretty much focused how. Yeah, that sounds pretty general, but I have to say it generally. I'm pretty much interested how we live. Like, how do we structure a day? How do we structure not just our day, but like that we can actually do something, create something, take action, achieve goals, like whatever, like however you want to create your life. That's basically our freedom, that we can, we have a choice to create our life like we want, and go after this and hunt after this. I don't know, like goals, dreams, whatever. And I want to look at this. And if we just look at the political field of history, we just get one glimpse of how it might have been to create the life you wanted, or like the chance that you got with living on this earth and what you made out of it. And that's what I found pretty sad, that I just don't want to, I want to combine many perspectives. And that's what cultural studies does. There's still politics, but also you work with sociologists, with literature studies, and so much more, like basically all the human studies. You try to get as much perspectives as possible, but not reducing them on general stuff. Like that's basically the danger of it, if you try to get as much perspectives as possible, that you reduce some fields as, you actually don't need to study it, since you can reduce it to, I don't know, this principle and this principle, and that's basically the danger. But still, I want to have as much perspectives as possible to understand how we live and how we can do the most out of it, of living.
Thank you very much. And essentially that, you see, if you collect enough perspectives, there may be that sort of a danger of sort of reducing and generalizing from some of those perspectives. Why do you see that as the danger?
Sorry, it kind of lagged a little bit. Can you repeat yourself?
So why do you see the reducing of some perspectives, if you have enough, as being a danger?
Okay, maybe danger is not the word that I should use. It's just I think everyone needs to decide for themselves how much perspective they want to gather, and like how many perspectives they value to find a conclusion. It's just a matter of that I feel more secure if I gather as much perspectives as possible, and that's what's possible when I study cultural studies. Yeah.
Okay. And when taking these different perspectives, are there any conclusions you're looking to draw overall, or is it just about having as many perspectives?
Yeah, it's I just want to have those perspectives, and it's like building up. How do you say it in English? I just want to have the I want to have the options open, kind of like. Yeah, okay, I have to Google it. I have to Google how it's called in English. I don't know why I don't. This might happen often. Like it's important to me that I communicate clearly. So I actually want to take time to translate or something like that, so you understand me.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, I meant toolbox. It's like a toolbox. I want to have this toolbox, and then if I notice the situation and I know, I could use this tool to understand the situation pretty much, then perfect. That's basically like working for something that might come in the future, but also just the freedom of having as much options as possible. The future thing is not as important as the options. I'm not really thinking about concrete situations that might come in the future. It's just possible that something comes. So I'm not too specific, what might come in the future. Just like, it's nice to have it. It's nice to have options.
I see. And your decision to drop philosophy, am I right in saying, just to rephrase back to you, that you prioritized these other subjects over philosophy because you already felt you didn't need so much help in philosophy, you didn't need so much guidance in it? Is that right?
Yeah. that's definitely one thing. In history, I would need a little bit more guidance. And philosophy, it's already in the first semester where we got many introductions in many different fields. That was already enough, like understanding how it built up, how they, I get more specific now. Like when it started with metaphysics, and then, okay, now the pronunciation will suck. Epistemology, how it built up, and now it's an era of phenomenology, and that was important to me to understand why, in the end, are the fields now present, and that's the introduction that I got. Like, why do we talk about phenomenology? Like, why do we talk about this now? And that's why I need to look at the past and see, okay, we already discovered this truth and this truth. So it's also a way of like understanding myself, comprehending myself, why we got here today. And yeah, that's easy for me to understand if you introduce me to it. Like, I mean, I have to say, though, maybe it's not the history where I needed the first push. It's more actually how to deal with complex texts, kind of. Like, what I found interesting is that we had a course in the first semester. It was called Scientific Reading and Scientific Writing. Yeah. And I was like, I actually can read. Like, why do you need to introduce me to reading? But scientific reading is so much different than to reading novels. And I was reading novels all the time. Okay, not just novels, but also how do you call them? Nonfiction stuff. And but they are still they're still written in a way that I can understand it without studying something. And then I noticed, okay, it gets pretty much complex here, and I have to dive deep into it and have to use much time as possible to get closer and closer until, okay, it makes all sense. And that's what happened when I had this course, that I knew, okay, I know how to, like, I got to know how to read scientifically, and that's what was missing, so that I can, like, that I'm ready to dive into the world of philosophy, you know. And with history, there's a little bit more that I have to discover yet.
I see. Thank you. Okay. What periods and parts of history most interest you?
Areas. Do you mean eras in like I don't know if I
Yeah. What parts of history? What times of history?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, since I didn't have every era yet, I can just say what I don't like, since I already had it. And it's definitely ancient times, in a way that it's so focused, at least in my university. It's so focused on wars and like the basic structures of, okay, well, that's actually interesting. The basic structures of how to organize collectives, you know, so they actually don't become chaotic, and you want this order and structure and so on. And it's kind of cute to see how they try to make sense of everything, since the philosophy started as well, and many sciences. But that's definitely the interesting part. But just this, how do you say it? politics. It's well, I have to Google it. External policy. Yeah, that's basically it. External policy. That's just so not interesting to me because I don't like how forceful they were. And whenever I read about it, it's not interesting to me. And yeah, I don't know if there's much more to it. It's just, okay, they were pretty forceful, and sometimes they were pretty peaceful, since I noticed that the Greeks were much more peaceful than the Romans, but that's why I would say Greek philosophy interests me way more. Also, astrology, that the Greek astrology has a complete different background and purpose instead of for the Romans. And just the background, purpose, everything that led to them prioritizing astrology to even predict, when it is okay to go to war with someone or whatever. That's just pretty interesting that the Greek way was a little bit more, unique instead of the other countries. But other than that, that's really just the only thing that really interested me about the ancient times, the scientific, the history of the sciences, and that it started there, and how the Greek culture organized their life, that they used astrology and something like that. Like, we don't use this today at all to guide or to say, okay, when should we actually have this conference or whatever, It's kind of cute that we have this perspective on it, but But what interests me, sorry, that was actually the question. What interests me is the late medieval times.
Yeah.
Is it how you pronounce it? Medieval?
Yeah.
And the early beginnings of the modern times. Yeah, so basically the 18th century, I mean. And kind of the 19th century as well, but that's maybe in some aspects too late for me, that I lose the interest in it. And that's the political aspect again. I don't know why I hate politics so much. No, I actually know, but it's not that I hate it. It's just not my, I don't see my strength in it to make decisions based on political knowledge. That's not my strength, really. So yeah, and the early modern times, late medieval times, you find many cultural aspects in it, and that's cool.
Thank you. What do you mean by making decisions based on political knowledge?
That I have to decide for someone else what they should do. Like, you have this hierarchy, and you have to like tell them what to do. I don't know how to say it in English, really, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Like that sort of normative idea whereby this is how things should be done, and therefore everyone has to toe the line, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And how were the Middle Ages, the late Middle Ages, especially different in terms of that? Wasn't there also political power being wielded in the late Middle Ages?
Yeah. I think the interesting aspect of it is that they couldn't really distinguish between politics and church. Like, how do you say it? I actually mean not just the church. That's what I'm writing a paper on this semester. Clergy?
Yeah, clergy.
Do you say clergy?
Yeah, we can say clergy. Yeah,
clergy.
Yeah. there wasn't a clear separation in terms of, the powers of a church and matters of state. Really, they often got entangled up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think they would probably, like, okay, that's what we can say from our perspective now. So it's kind of useless to say, okay, they could have made better decisions to like this and this, and yeah, they just did this decision. So I actually don't like to say, yeah, they could have done better this way and this way. That's just their history, their life. We can't really decide upon their life, like how they should do this and that. That's our
Yeah,
values nowadays.
but
Yeah.
yes, makes sense. But what was it about that comparative entanglement of church and state that makes that more interesting to you than, say, the more clear-cut political ideologies of the 19th and 20th century, or even the sort of foundational statecraft of the ancient Greeks and the Romans?
Hmm. Yeah. How do I start there? um, I think one motivation as well why I want to study cultural studies is that nowadays I don't see much culture. Like, it's it doesn't have any limits nowadays, and I kind of want to know, well, not limits. Yeah, that's difficult to explain since how I perceive culture is nowadays is that do we actually have a common ground there? And probably not. But back then they had, and I want to know how this common ground got, like, how did we lose this? I don't know if we don't have a common ground yet. I mean, I'm going to study it, and then I will see where we have maybe still a common ground and where not. But as I perceive it and experience culture, it's just pretty. This might sound kind of sad, but I feel pretty lonely. I don't feel like I belong to this certain culture and this certain culture. I'm floating around and experiencing this and that, and then I decide, okay, maybe it's not so fitting to me, and that's a little bit more fitting. I don't know. It's like kind of that's what I mean. That's so free and no limits that I can float around. And in back then, it was more clear cut. And that's what I find interesting. How was it so clear cut? And how did people perceive it back then? Was it good? Were they feeling good that it was so clear cut and that you have to even point out where you think you're belonging to? They really wanted to know this and why. And yeah, I guess the difference between nowadays and back then is the interesting part of it. That's nowadays so free and yeah, but that's really just my perception and experience of it. I don't know if others feel the same way.
Thank you. Interesting. So let's take a route out of academia now and look more about other aspects of your life. Do you have many friends?
No, not at all. Friends is a thing, or friendship is a thing that's kind of difficult for me. Because it's more about feeling good with someone instead of defining the status, labeling it, whatever, most of the time. But there's one thing that makes me actually think about relationships. Like you can imagine it as stepping over my boundary, but in a positive way. I just noticed that if I'm interesting to someone, there was this one girl in the first semester. She thought I was cute and she wanted to talk to me. And I was like, okay, klar, sure, we can talk. It's fine. And she was persistent, or like she didn't want to let go of our thing. And I wasn't like, what's our thing? Like, why? What? I was confused why she wants to continue talking to me, why she wants to meet me and such. Like we had a good time. That's okay. But she was a little bit more like, she really wanted to get to know me. And that's basically, I don't know if you can, it's probably not boundaries, but walls that she climbed over the wall, and she made the effort. And that was like, okay, I have to think about this one. I have to think about the kind of relationship I have to her. And I appreciate it very much when people really try to understand me. And it's just, I rarely meet those people who try to understand me. I meet much people who just want to have a good time, and that's fine by me. But yeah, this really makes me think, like, why does she want more than just having a good time? Because we just can have a good time and that's it, you know? And yeah, and so she got my friend, she became my friend, and she's still persistent, and I'm really grateful because I'm not the one approaching people at all. And I even it's sometimes forgetting, and sometimes I really just don't care that I have to text someone so the contact is still there, you know? I just care about texting someone when I know I might hurt them if I don't show that I care. And actually, I don't care, so I actually have to lie a little bit. And but I care about this person. I don't care. So that's why I still do it. You know, it's like I care about the person, but I don't care really that. Does it make sense somehow?
You care about the you care about the relationship. You just don't care about the need to perform that interest in the person.
Yeah.
I see.
Like at a certain point, I definitely care about the relationship. I care about the person. And that's just the point that people usually people don't are not successful with me, that I care, that I think about this relationship, that I decide, okay, I want to continue with this person. Like it's definitely a way of I really don't care. I really do care about this person just when I appreciate them. It's a way of appreciation that they are in my life and they fulfill it with their experiences, and we can talk and whatever. That's just really beautiful to me. And yeah, so she's a friend, and then my boyfriend kinda, and yeah, and then I would say I just have, this friend. Oh man, she would be so mad if she would know that I forgot her. She's a friend since we are 5, so I just forgot her. She's definitely a friend, but I think the history just connects us, but not interests or something like that. And the interest part is pretty important to me. Tradition, not so much, but yeah, I appreciate her as a person, and I don't want to lose her trust as well, that she continues sharing her life with me. And it's just beautiful to listen to people, how they perceive life. It's just another way of getting a new perspective and maybe get inspired, or yeah.
Thank you.
So those three.
Thank you very much. Why do you have walls? And why do you avoid approaching people to make new friendships?
Why do I care about what?
Why do you have walls?
Ah,
And why do you not approach people yourself to form new friendships?
why do I care about rules?
Sorry, walls. Like you said that this person climbed over your walls.
Oh, I yeah. Why do I care about walls? Okay, there are many reasons, but they kind of influence each other, are related to each other. One thing is I don't want to be badly influenced by other people. Like if they come too close to me and they expect from me something that I can't give, and then there's conflict, and I don't like that. I want to make expectations clear and want to say them honestly, like I can't, like that's who I am, just accept me for who I am. And I don't want to don't want to step too much out of my comfort zone, sacrifice too much of myself in order to yeah. And that's one thing, how you can badly influence myself. Influence myself. And the other way is obviously toxic behavior and such. That's like, get out of my way. Yeah, that's what I'm wary of. And the other way of walls, what was it? It's actually, it's basically this, like if someone gets too close to me and I actually start to care about this person, like really care about this person, and suddenly they try to guilt me, or like, yeah, I thought you would do this and this, and I thought you promised me this and whatever, like expectations basically. And then I'm like, shit, I'm such an idiot that I forgot that. Like, I don't want her to feel bad. I don't know how to help her that she doesn't feel bad anymore. I don't know how to make up trust again. I don't know how I actually start to, like, how do you get this good common ground again? And I don't know, man. And that's why that's one way that shows the weakness, that I can't approach people and I can't really build up relationships with people. I really need the other person to do. That sounds so shitty, but I have a unique way of contributing to a relationship. And I just noticed as a kid that mostly people don't appreciate that, how I contribute to relationships. So I built walls and walls and walls and noticed, okay, I'm not fitting, I'm not needed for most of the people I meet. So I try to avoid situations where people build trust in me and then I let them down, and I actually didn't want to let them down. That wasn't my intention at all. And so this makes me kind of sad that people don't need what I can give most of the time. And Like, for example, emotional support. Like, I'm really bad at it. Like, if someone expects of me to be as angry as them, feeling their intensity and such, like, not just their intensity, just in general, to get into this atmosphere of being emotionally involved, I don't feel secure in this bubble. It kind of creates a bubble, and then I don't know how to get out of it. And then I need support of the other people, that they build up the good atmosphere again. Like, I hate this. And emotional support, I can give emotional support by staying calm and not get too involved in their problems. So then I don't know how to get out of there again. I want to stay outside the bubble, keep the distance a little bit, and maybe I can give them some nice advice, or maybe just listen. Listening that's what I noticed. I can listen pretty well, and if they just need to listen, somebody to listen, I'm there. Yeah, but most of the time I meet people who need emotional support, and yeah, what's also a thing I don't feel comfortable with. Getting active, like, for example, if my friend wants me to meet her and at her house, and it's actually a 1 hour away, and it's already evening, and I wouldn't feel secure in the tube, or in the, like, what I need to use in order to get where she's at. That's also a thing. I don't want people to expect me to put myself in a situation where I would feel anxious. Like, it doesn't have to be dangerous exactly. It's just when I feel anxious, don't expect me to get into this situation. Yeah. It's better that you don't expect from me anything, but that I surprise you at least with something, maybe. But yeah.
Thank you. And what situations are you at your most confident?
What did you say? Sorry.
In what situations are you at your most confident?
Difficult question. What am I? You know what I like about reading nonfiction and even scientific stuff? I really like to organize information. It just sounds so like, what the fuck? Why do you care about, like, why is it funny to you or interesting or whatever? But that's like, I really like to end my day with like seeing the dots connecting or whatever, you know. That's just, I just feel really weird saying that. I definitely have other ways of getting fun, but but yeah, that's one thing where I feel confident in, that I can organize information pretty well. And it's a really difficult question, to be honest. It's difficult to talk about my strength. What I hear from others, maybe that's a good orientation, is that I'm patient with them, that I never cross lines, boundaries, etc. That I listen carefully, that yeah, that's what my father appreciates. He's a pretty emotional person, and he actually appreciates that I'm always distant. I'm always listening to him and telling him which perspective he might consider, or which focus he might consider. So he gets a little bit out of his way, and he's not standing in his way with his emotions and such, that he's acting impulsively or rationally. That's where I'm good at, that I give him this basis to work on. Yeah, that I say, yeah, okay, look at this, look at that. Is it enough? Like, it's really difficult for me to talk about my strength.
That's fine. Thank you. I know you said in the pre-diagnostic questionnaire that sometimes you feel as if you get in your own way. Could you give me some examples of how you managed to get into your own way?
It's whenever I let emotions decide what I want, what I should do. Okay, yeah, I can give a pretty good example for that. So it's basically whenever I have to decide, actually, like, then I can stand in my own way pretty well that I overthink stuff. I overthink my options. I overthink the consequences, maybe, when I really care about something. And yeah. And yeah, you can give me just tell me, yeah, okay, you didn't think about this too clearly, or like you have to think about this one a little bit more, and then I'm like, okay, let's dive into it, and let's see what I can still figure out or whatever and discover. And yeah, and that's when I have to base decision on my emotions. It's basically just my emotions. It's easier for me to decide when others are involved, and then I try to understand them and maybe what they need and what they would want from me. That's easier for me to understand, and how to find balance in it so that I can get the middle ground. That's basically always my goal when I have to decide something. At least getting in as much as possible, that I can, that nothing is left out. Like, for example, that nobody is left out in the end if they are involved in my decision. And but like, yeah, okay, yeah, let's get to the example. Yeah, okay. So this gets pretty personal. My mother left me with her dad, her apartment, her cats, everything. She just told me 1 week before, that was in 2017, where I was just 17, that she wants to visit my aunt, and she will come back 1 week later. But 1 week later, instead, she called me and said, "I'm not coming back. You have to take care of everything. And yeah.
Sorry to hear.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's a good way that you kind of reacted to it, because that's also my point. I'm really thankful for that, though. I heard from many people, I'm sorry, because I had to tell many people the story. My school, okay, I have to Google this again.
Okay.
I have to tell the school, the Child Protective Services. Yeah. The Child Protective Services, everyone basically who decides upon my life or my living. And yeah, and they told me, "Oh, I'm sorry, you must be mad at your mother. You must feel sad. You must feel well." And you know what? I never felt this. Like, okay, I felt a little bit sadness, a little bit anger, but I understood her decisions. I know exactly why she did this. And that was enough for me to move on, first of all. But since people continue to tell me, "Oh, you must be so mad. I'm so mad at your mother," that I try to adapt to it. And that's where I stand in my own way then. I try to look at other people. Okay, they reacted like this, and I should like feel those emotions, and like I care too much. It's kind of weird. I care too much about other people and not at the same time. It's kind of weird. I just noticed how they would react emotionally, because it is that's one reason why I looked at other people. I look at other people, how they would react and how they would cope with the situation emotionally, because it did something with me psychologically. That's what my therapist noticed as well. I developed some other mental illnesses, and and that's I knew it is a psychological matter as well. That's what I did also unconsciously. It's not just that I decided, okay, I have to care about my psychological health, so I need to look at how other would cope with that. That's not what I consciously did. It's just a way of, whenever I feel insecure or confused, I sometimes look at others, especially when it is emotions that are involved. And so I took their anger and their frustration and what they felt towards my mother, that I confused it for my emotions. And I had such a resentment towards my mother that it was so relieving when we actually talked this out, and when I actually also remembered that I actually understood her. Why do I have to keep up this emotional pain if I didn't have this intensity of it? I mean, I did have emotional pain, but that's not really the... I was okay with it at the beginning. It was just a way of, I noticed I have this emotional pain, and where do I store this in myself? What do I do with that? And then that began with looking how others react to this drama, whatever they call the drama, family drama. There had so many different ways to label that relationship with my mother, and I was just... she had her reasons. And when she admitted those reasons, that she was so honest to me, that's where I finally felt complete relief, that I was right actually in my head, that I really understood her, and then that I had my emotional pain, and that everything was okay. Not okay. How do you say it? Understandable, at least. Yeah.
I see.
And that's okay. And in the end, that's how I stand in my own way. When I don't reflect on what other people give me, how they influence me, maybe in my decisions, and then I just take it for the truth for myself, and then I didn't reflect enough. Yeah.
Thank you. One last question I'd ask you today, because I know we've got a follow-up session and we'll need to put that in for a week's time, I think. I'd ask you, how do you handle situations of confrontation and conflict with others?
I just had a glimpse in the chat, and I'm typing myself as Enneagram Type 9, so I try to avoid them. And when actually conflict starts, when I get confronted with something, I freeze. I withdraw even more. I become really anxious of the consequences. First of all, I think of the ways how this person, how much power this person has over me or my living or whatever. If I notice they actually have some power, I become really anxious and kind of become defensive. But that I don't lose politeness or something like that. That's actually kind of my weapon, that I never lose politeness, that I never cross their boundaries. Like I actually still want to keep my strength, at least. I know my weakness, and they confront my weakness, but those are my only strengths. So I carefully listen to them, and I try to at least debunk a little bit of their confrontation. Is it actually right what they do right now? Does it make sense? Did I really did something wrong? Or like, do I have to take responsibility? And if I need to take responsibility, that's then the point where I admit when I did something wrong, and I kind of ask for time, and then I have to deal with a lot of confusion and how I could take responsibility in the end. And yeah, just calm down, because it's just an anxious level that gets so high up whenever someone confronts me with something. And but if they actually confront me unfairly, or like that's like they confront me with something that doesn't make sense, I just let them be. I don't need to react or something. I don't feel the need to react.
Thank you. Steffi, thank you for those answers. It's very helpful. Thank you for opening up as well about some of the more personal aspects of your family. I think I've asked the questions I need to ask for the moment. I know we're also sort of running out of time for our hour, and if you'd like to explore more in our follow-up session, but I think that LII makes the most sense in terms of your typing. I know that's the new typing you were considering for yourself as well in the pre-diagnostic questionnaire, and it looks like the audience has all similarly come to a conclusion of LII being the most likely. I was thinking of other possibilities as well in this interview. So I was thinking about IEE for a little while, simply because of the sheer breadth of perspectives you were collecting in your cultural studies. But I need to couch that in the overall context of what you are doing and what decisions you're making about your different subjects. And it's not that you consider this to be the one subject which you're really delving into. It's more that you have a number of subjects and you're prioritizing which one of those subjects to be going into. And each one of them is lending themselves towards a greater understanding of, well, about the development of civilization, about different ideas and how they've come about, how different cultures come about, and sort of, and the idea is that you're collecting so many perspectives in this area, but also you're doing that because you can already do the philosophy side yourself. You don't really need so much instruction in that area. And I think you're making more, well, having to make more pragmatic decisions in terms of what you're actually learning at a university, using that as a tool to then build up this overall big picture or jigsaw about how civilization has sort of come together over the centuries, even the millennia. And so in that respect, I'm thinking that introverted logic still makes sense as being the leading function. Even with all, and that the reason you're collecting so many perspectives, you're not wanting to sort of limit those perspectives or simplify or reduce them, is because you're simply adding as much as you can to fit into your jigsaw. And I think that makes sense if you then look at the social side, where I think extrovert sensation as a vulnerable function makes quite a bit of sense. There's that aversion to times where there's more force or something which is more normative and enforced on things. Yes, during the Middle Ages, there are plenty of wars going on, but also during these darker ages, there are times where there's rather less centralized command control. And actually, there was a lot of ideas that were actually being developed, and a lot of experimentation was going on after the collapse of the Roman Empire. And so there's a lot of interesting aspects there where people are sort of reformulate their ideas after this rather sort of collapse, and new thoughts are coming into focus. Christianity was having an influence as well in terms of how people are making sense of things. Also, Islam was being very successful, and that influence was coming across. So thinking about these aspects of history, there's a lot of new shoots during the Middle Ages, which often I'd not really appreciate people who don't actually study that part of history. So I find I can see why you may enjoy that area, whereas in the Roman and Greek times, it's sort of formulaic, how they sort of set down how the structure needs to be, and it was working quite well for their different formulae. But and it was not really interesting. We're trying to get to the root of how these things develop in the first place. It's sort of command control. Whereas in the 19th and 20th century, yes, far more politically coercive. And you don't like, you said you don't like the idea of it sort of, just because this is the political of how things must be, that is then enforced onto things and made to be a certain way. Saying that, the early modern, there's also that during the Renaissance, there are times where perhaps the most sort of persecution of heretics and that sort of thing going on as well. But there are these sort of, there's an interesting dichotomy or dialectic going on there. Now, but yeah, just the dislike of the times where history is mostly written about times of war, times of conquest, does not interest you. The extrovert sensation side is just not really a factor. Also, when you are talking about your relationships with others, it is the fear of people using force against you, perhaps. And also your recognition that you're very susceptible to emotions from others, knowing how to feel about things, knowing what sorts of emotions can be then used against you, and you're worried about that. You've been stung by that, and you know that if something you're not quite sure what to feel, you can understand something intellectually, but sometimes you're not so quite sure what to feel about it, and sometimes that's led you astray. We've had lots of different sources of how to feel about something, that sort of impression on you, and so you're sort of building up these sort of walls and structures so that the right emotional influences could eventually come in to make you feel actually happier and better with your life, not being told that you should feel angry or something like that. So I think definitely extrovert ethics is valued, but very much the thing about suggestive function, in a way, the interesting thing is people call the vulnerable function. That's not really the best term for it. It's better to call it some sort of blind spot function, or something which we reject. Whereas the suggestive function is truly the vulnerable function, because that's where we are actually susceptible towards its influence. And sometimes that isn't actually going to move us in the right way if it's not done with the right intentions. So I think suggestive function, extrovert ethics makes a lot of sense. I think extrovert sensation as a vulnerable function makes a lot of sense. Strong extrovert intuition and valued extrovert intuition is apparent, but I think actually making more sense as being behind introverted logic, as being the big puzzle sorter of this grand narrative.
It is basically a puzzle. I love puzzles. Puzzling things together.
And so certainly you say how your area of confidence seems to be about the organization of information. They're putting that together. And people rightly point out there's introverted logic comes into that. Introverted sensation plays a role there as well. I think you are someone who's aware of how when things are getting uncomfortable for you in that situation and trying to preserve that level of comfort, but not quite sure how to assert yourself to actually make yourself very comfortable in a situation, to get rid of the thing making you uncomfortable. So you go towards social avoidance as being that's introverted sensation in the focused position, but still weak, with completely absent extroverted sensation, making it weaker and leading to the social avoidance. So yeah, I think LII overall is making the most sense. But I'd like to discuss a few more things maybe with you in the follow-up session. Maybe you could answer some questions from the audience as well in the follow-up session, which would be nice. And looking maybe areas like the ignoring function and other things we didn't really get to explore today, but I think could come out in further discussion. Do you have any questions for me so far? Anything immediate?
Yeah, I don't know how actually follow-up sessions work. Like, when does it come? Or
I introduced these because for some people at the end of the hour, I'm still not really sure what their type is, and I think we need more time, or it's just a good way to get more questions in, more discussion. So normally I'll give you a week to sort of reflect, think about things, that sort of thing. And then after a week of sort of thinking it over, we can have more of the follow-up discussion. We could do same time next week if you'd like.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I'll email you just to make sure that's confirmed, and we'll see if we can do that. But Steffi, thank you so much for agreeing to do the interview. Thank you everyone else for tuning in, and hope to see you all next week.
Thank you.
Take care now. Bye-bye.